and put this on just to make sure I can hear everything.
Hey, I see stuff
On over there, so they can rewatch this.
Special minute.
Yeah, that extra special minute. That extra special minute's very important. It's a
Yeah.
privilege.
Yeah.
It's a privilege to be able to do that.
Well, I guess people do pay for like those meet and greet packages and all that. So I guess
All right, people should be hopping on
premium
this.
quality content.
Premium quality content. Okay.
Oh, we made the big time. We got a celebrity.
Hi.
Actually, you know what? He's a pretty big celebrity too.
No, he is.
I would go there because that his GNR tribute.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. All right. So, all right, I'm just going to get this rolling. So, thanks for tuning in, everyone. This is number 5. Yeah, number 5. So, I got my friend Joe Giglio on. Joe, thanks. What Joe's history, how we met, and Joe, for some of you already know this. He owns the Rock Institute, which we're at right now. We're on location. So, and we're going to talk about how running a business actually works.
Is this your first location shoot?
No, I did one last week.
That's all.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. You got second banana on that one, but first place.
Well, I don't know. I had siblings that played music. It was always kind of just a thing, and I it's kind of a cliche thing. I remember, hearing my older brother play music. So now I sound old as crap, but I have some vivid memories of videos on MTV, and just kind of like being little and seeing these like over the top images of people playing in front of massive crowds, and it just seemed like the coolest thing.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty much how it started. Going back, playing drums is probably something that just came to me. I don't know if you know, but I don't know if I ever told you, but my grandfather, who I never met, was drummer in the late 30s and 40s, and he was in the Chicago scene. So I mean, he was like legit doing it.
Wait a minute, what was his name?
I never knew. William Gorman, but
okay,
I never. I was probably 20 in the jeans or.
Right. Nice.
So,
yeah, I got my first guitar at 6. It's usually around that age.
Yeah, for some people. I mean, it depends. I mean, as you know, whatever, and
right.
When we're not gigging, we teach, and we both have students who are over retirement age. I don't want to give out numbers,
right? But yeah,
but no, I mean, we got people. So it's not, but yeah, I mean, I think it's something that's just in you. It just comes out.
Right.
If it's there, it comes out when it comes out.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah. So then, and so you moved out to LA in like the late 2000s.
A long time. But it wasn't just the gigging. I mean, we toured the East Coast. I was in a band that actually was signed to Universal and then shelved, and came out of that band, did another band that did really just. If you're good and you can, I think also having been shelved by Universal, I think I was also, even though my other bands did good, I think I was just frustrated and wanted something more and had the ability to go do it. So I went out there somewhere around 2008 or so.
How old were you when you moved out there?
Late 20s.
Yeah, cool. So, and now a lot of the people that are listening here who are students of ours know a lot of those stories anyway, but for people that don't know about what you did out there, you want to just give like the highlights, all the cool stuff, and like what you learned and whatnot?
I don't know if we have that much time.
The really cool stuff.
So a quick outline. I was involved in A and B and C list players that would come out. They were either coming up or television people, movie people, and legit, real musicians. I was also on a VH1 TV series and had a ton of different gigs with a bunch of different people. I also the American Country Music Awards, the American Music Awards. I worked on the BET Awards. I worked with
some of those laminates are hanging right over there.
Yeah, I have a few. I mean, I have a bunch at home. It's funny. It's with the school. It's tough because I have a lot of personal stuff that I like having at home, but I also like people to see some of the stuff. And so it's always tough trying to find a balance of what I keep where. But I also, I've also done a lot of weird, gigs that you don't expect. A couple I won't tell because it ruins. I told you a couple of stories of not, I worked on some, I guess, secret stuff, but I also got to work on some really outrageous. I worked with Alabama of all bands,
right,
at the Palms in Las Vegas, and the Palms has the most, the Palms is shaped like a palm tree, and their studio is up, overlooks out, and at that level, I mean, everything, most of the playing and teching was all really high end stuff, and it was crazy. One of the studios I worked at, which and a couple of others, but
for those of you that don't know, not to cut you off, but center staging,
I was going to say that.
Oh, you were gonna. Oh,
center staging had everyone from Justin Bieber to Miley Cyrus to Chris Brown, Rihanna, but it was also where a lot of the footage from the Michael Jackson documentary "This Is It" was shot. So,
yeah, but you're not in it. That was
I am
right
not in
before.
That was I was actually working at a different high-end in North Hollywood, and I was lucky enough to be sitting in. I was kind of not working. I was sitting in watching. I was sitting on a couch a few seats away from Doc McGee, watching Kiss rehearse.
Yeah.
And I got to and all of a sudden my understanding, and
you're like, what is this, an Amber Alert? What's going on?
When I found out that Michael Jackson died, I'm literally sitting there, Doc McGee's a few seats away, Kiss is in front of me, and their phones are lighting up on top of their amps, and they finish a song, and Gene just blurts it out, and that was it. And like it was like, oh wow, and he just announced it. It was like, so this is the studios that I was working at, and,
right?
It was wild. It was, I mean, that in and of itself was a wild time, and the way they interacted after ultimately ended up like that.
No,
in depth, and I'm sure they've had it. I'm sure they
must have run into him,
met a few times. I mean, a generation.
Yeah, and people don't realize that there really is. I'm astounded when I notice the mutual friends people have, and who they've worked with and who they've crossed paths with. And about Sound Talent Group, which Dave Shapiro runs, I looked at their artist list spanning from and we can't just scoot past LA without mentioning Kirk Hammett.
Yep. Well, yeah, I also worked for Kirk Hammett. I worked for him for a few years with a friend of mine. My friend owned my amazing bass player who actually played with a bunch of famous bands as well. His name, by the name of Joe Petro. He also is one of the top movie prop restoration artists in the world. So Kirk Hammett was one of his, and is one of his, San Francisco. Go to his house. Got to do some events with him. We did Fear Festival, which we did absolutely awesome, and be around him.
Yeah. I was surprised because I remember when the Peabody Essex Museum, all his stuff, that was like right before I started working here. And then I remember,
that's right.
And then after you and I really got to know each other and you were telling me some of these stories, I'm like, wait a second, you're like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, I prepared, helped prepare a bunch of this stuff. I mean, these props that get put out there, the value, the cost is just absolutely ridiculous. I won't speak directly to any of his personal pieces, but what these collectors will do, and it's not, there's TV producers, there's musicians, but there's also just, they will buy a screen used piece of clothing or whatever. So I'll use this example. Or the movie called, in like I think it was 34, there was a movie called Tower of London, and he wore this costume. It was a entire screen used top. This specific collector, my understanding is he paid $90,000 for the top.
Wow.
And then came to or whatever made for it to wear, and then you need to get some kind of costume correct, in this case pants.
Yeah.
But then you also need to get a Boris Karloff head made. So you start with a $90,000 prop that's almost close to 100 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, you're already starting at that price point. So another 50 over Zombie or the Black Cat. But he sent a Bela Lugosi screen used full size, costume and mannequin essentially with it. And he sent a lot of pieces like that to the Peabody. So, I was, sent to San Francisco with, Joe, and I went up to San Francisco and went and packaged everything up and brought it to, the professional art moving companies. And I mean, you don't think about it, but it's handled by the same kind of plants and moving things. You don't just FedEx these things. It goes moving art, high-end tour, and you're shipping music gear, like Rocket Cargo.
I was gonna say,
you would go if you're Metallica or you're Prince or somebody, you would, Prince used that much, but you would use Rocket Cargo and they go through your gear rather than having a traditional, TSA agent drop your guitar down the belt a few times.
Yeah, that's always fun. I've seen that happen to my own. One time I had to check one of my guitars because I bought the wrong ticket going to the NAMM show, and I'm just like, I tried to reason with them and they weren't having it. So I basically sat on that plane back from from Anaheim to Logan, and just my heart is just beating. And then I waited there, and it was in one piece. Thank God for that. But anyway, this isn't about me. So so they sent you to San Fran, you packaged everything, and then did they fly you back here to set it all up at the museum?
They did PBS Essex Museum, they did a great job.
Oh yeah.
That's a great place over there. But
yeah. No, I loved that. I loved that whole thing when I saw it. It was cool while you were out there. Well, actually, no, because then now this kind of comes into one of the other topics I wanted to talk about, which is like you were doing a whole bunch of different stuff out there. Like you had a lot of welding work.
Yeah.
And what else? Talk about like all the different stuff you did.
When you do the music
and how that helped you.
Well, it's funny. The more you do, the more you meet people.
Yeah.
So, when you do 2 gigs a week at a certain place and you fill in other time, or maybe you're on tour to do their couple gigs or their run of shows, and then they take those 2 months off and wait for the next run of shows to start. And those guys do okay, but the guys who figure out something to fill that 2 months so they're not just sitting around waiting for the next thing. So I've been before I even moved to LA, I started a mic stand making company and symbol. I think the one that was probably one in the window.
Yeah.
I think mine in the office, but I do, and I was making stage props. I was making custom cymbal stands and microphone stands, and I had been as a drummer, even though I've played a lot of rock gigs and did a lot of rock stuff, I think it's a little different than back then. It's all beats, so I enjoy playing drums. So I got to work with a huge difference from the rock gigs. It was so much fun with the energy, though.
Were you DJing or were you playing on E-Kit?
They had their own thing, and we would do a trio gigs here and there for some pretty big shows. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's a whole different topic, but the energy that people had was way different than even when you have an electric rock show.
Yeah. These
dance clubs had its own energy, and that was its own. But that was just more gigs. That was just more to do and more people to see you doing your thing.
Yeah.
Then you get kind of just branching out into other kind of things when you have the time. And one of the things that and this is kind of a funny story about, it was once a week, and we had a house band of accomplished Petro, who I was, an amazing bass player. He and I always got along, but one night I got out of my car by in front of the club, and I was talking to Joe Retta from Sweet and Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yeah.
He was talking to me. I had one of my custom mic stands with me, and he was talking to me about getting a custom piece made. We were talking about what I had, and he knew I was going to be at the gig playing, and we just happened to be talking out on the street. And Joe Petro, who was already a buddy of mine, was like, "Wow." And he waited, and the next day he calls me. He's like, I have some gigs that I do some other stuff. You read Hammett's like family's personal stuff. Like,
Right.
It's pretty wild. But you know,
you worked on the alien mask, right?
That wasn't his, but I worked on yeah. I mean, the monster props. I mean, the monster props are as funny of a list. The list of musicians I have and the list of monster props are both equally ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, I helped restore the original Terror Dog. I mean, and this is a quick one, but the Terror Dog from the original Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah.
I helped do the Unbelievable Artist. I helped him.
Yeah.
I helped on the original Harry and the Henderson suit.
Yeah.
I've handled props from the Back to the Future, the original Back to the Future movies. We did some work on the original Mrs. Doubtfire stuff. We've done stuff with Beetlejuice's original costume. And I mean, but then you get into some of the crazy horror stuff. Kirk used to own, or still owns, stuff from like Evil Dead, Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so amazing to see some of these old animatronic props and be able to pull the cords. I actually had to mount in this. He had one of the original piranhas from the movie Piranha.
Oh, really? That's funny.
You had to put in a. No.
That would have been awesome.
So neither one of them really crossed too much into. None of the bigger clients crossed into Star Wars too
really?
much. Yeah. No, it's more lighthearted, but more iconic.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was real, like Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
I've handled Ash's costume from, I mean, I'm trying to I mean, there's so many. I mean, the collections these people have, I mean, it's astounding. And that the stuff still in the street.
I don't know if he would have been called for Jabba the Hutt anyway, because I don't think there was much like metal going on in there. It was just this big suit. There were actors inside working it.
Well, once I had worked with them for a bit, I started working and doing other stuff. You know, Kirk had 2 8-foot jump in the fire demons made, 8-foot tall demons made, but he decided along the way after they were made, he decided he wanted the eyes to light up like and glow green, and then also breathe smoke. So I had to I ended up making up a whole system. You know, Joe and I made up a whole system with things for smoke machines so they could go and actually have. It was a whole thing.
I'm sure.
So yeah, I mean, but it's, you know, for 2 months because they made a bunch on tour and then get back, and then, you know, go out for another couple months. You could see at least for me, it always made more doors open.
Well, yeah. And that's what I'm always doing. It's like, don't just do this one thing. You know, like even if we're just talking music, play every style of music you possibly can. You just don't know. You know, I think a lot of our students here, classically trained guitarists, because I can read music, I'm able to do avant-garde opera, but also I do video editing as well. So I've gotten called for stuff for that too. Amp Tweaker, one of the...
When I moved to LA,
yeah,
and I first get out there and I'm scrolling through jobs, and you wouldn't think about this, but Hustler was looking for people for a certificate.
Yeah,
that's all you needed, and Hustler was looking for video editors.
Oh,
I mean, not, you know, if that's your bag, like, I mean, you don't think about it, but like, you go to Hollywood, there's just gigs, and if you have certain skills, you know, not saying that's the route you need to go, but like, you would have met famous people.
Well,
those famous people.
Yeah.
Proton Saints was through VH1.
Right, but you met
to do work afterwards.
Right.
But you know, it's amazing. You know, he is a visual actor. You know, he did the voiceover. He was one of the characters in all 3 How to Train Your Dragon movies. He was on a ton of just TV shows. And aside from being a cool guy,
yeah.
But you know, he also is like it's not even it's higher than that, but like a brand ambassador for one of the top like Scotch companies in the world, and it's not, brand ambassador isn't the right title. He gets flown. No, he's even beyond that now. But he was getting flown around the world when he wasn't doing music stuff or voiceover. He was getting flown around the world to go do, you know, wine or Scotch tastings and all our glass events. I mean, it was like, I mean,
here's a bottle. I mean, car.
Here's a not even a bottle. It was a glass. It was some. I mean, it might be off. No,
Wait,
it was
$40K for a glass?
No, legit. Like, I mean, it was like a 200-year-old bottle. I mean, I forget the whole. But like, here's gonna do a band, doing music. He's around all these people who could have potentially invested. If they can afford a $10,000 glass, they might be happy to invest in a band if they dig it. You know?
Right.
And it's and I guess you take some of the party bands from the 80s who didn't last long because they got off tour and partied and did nothing. They weren't like huge partiers, and they all have like side businesses. And you know, when times got really tough, you know, Bruce Dickinson's like, oh well, I'll just get a pilot's license, and now all of a sudden
he's a Renaissance man.
I mean, but the whole band has that kind. I mean, they're all. I mean, they're not all at the same level as him with the Renaissance, but you know, ultimately, like, you know, I believe Nico.
He has a rib joint.
Yep. No, I was going to say he was also at one point he was really into fencing.
Oh, he was too.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I believe so. But you know, a lot of those guys, but they all had like hobbies. They weren't just like, cool, we're off tour. We're gonna have like 9 months of like just straight parties and hope no one dies, and we'll show up at the studio when it's time. You know, it's like, it's just a difference. You know, I think it's also a different era. But I mean, look how successful and what those guys are worth versus like, you know, what's I don't know, what's the net worth of some C or D level 80s band that just had an image.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're able to do all these other things. And like you said, you do focus on the one dream, but you do all these other things that interest you so that you can facilitate that one dream.
I don't know if I don't want to misquote, but I don't think he was just, no, that's what I'm saying. I wasn't disagreeing with you. I just didn't want to misspeak. I didn't want to speak incorrectly on it, but I think it just happened that fact.
And now he's their pilot and all that stuff. And he has his own aviation company now.
Yeah. And I mean, that grew out of that.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it's just, you know,
it's crazy when I watch those interviews with him. Like, I just saw that guy on stage singing Power Slave yesterday. And now here he is, you know, talking about the state of, you know, stock in, like, we know it's Bruce, but still you see him just make that switch and he does it so well.
Yep. I mean, guy,
so to speak too, or does he just own stock or what?
My understanding is he just bought a massive chunk of it when it was up fledgling. Maynard from Tool has a vineyard.
Right.
You know, it's like, it just makes sense.
Restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, they all have a ton. I mean, Vince Neil was a half owner of a hockey team.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I mean, yeah. So I mean, he owned. You know, he's had tattoo studios and bars, and I mean, they all. You know, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, you got to put the time in. You know, if you want to do music, you got to put the time in and do music, and not try to be 9 other things.
Right.
But you know, when you have the ability to diversify out, you know, it's like the school. We do lessons, we do bands, we do recording, we do, you know, backline rehearsals, we rent gear. We pretty much, you know, what do you want to do? You want to film a showcase? You know, we rent out the space to film showcases.
Right.
And, I mean, you can showcase your band here to major, you know, anybody you want to showcase to. It's you know, it doesn't just need to be, oh, it's a music school, so you can only teach lessons. That makes no sense.
Bunch of stuff goes down here. And actually, I mean, we could talk about LA and the stuff you did out there all day, but let's try and move ahead now that we're talking how you ended up at the school and then became the owner. And then let's talk more specifically about how running your own business actually works.
That's like boring stuff.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I started teaching a few lessons here. Essentially, I did and it just made sense for me to take over. The previous people didn't necessarily have in the industry and had a different kind of vision to go with. So having been in Hollywood, knowing how a stage should be run, knowing how, you know, what concerts take to put on, and also looking at the fact that, like, you know, I think it was a very overlooked to be a little bit more of a bigger deal, because what's the point?
Right.
If you don't ever get a chance to go in front of an audience and do it, it just seems weird. And so the whole kind of then you're going to want to do it more.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest question I get is, well, how can I get, you know, little Johnny to practice more? You can't.
No.
They have to want to.
Right.
And once they do, then it's kind of unstoppable. You know, I've had more than a few parents who are like, you know, all of a sudden he comes home from school and he wants to just play for 2 hours and he doesn't want to stop. I'm like, there it is.
Yep.
Like it's if you don't have passion in for it, you're never gonna force it. You can't force passion.
Right.
So
exactly. Yeah. I got a few students who are like, yeah, that's just, they're always,
yeah.
They did get a lot bigger. You know, the stages are bigger, the lighting and everything. And then like the finales that we put together for the kids at the end, like the famous Master of Puppets one, we did units and they were able to.
It's all just putting it in, but it's, you know, it's also taking the kids who do individual, not just the bands, but the stuffy, yeah. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants to sit through 3 hours of, you know, just quiet, stuffy, you know, some whatever piece, some cliche piano piece, but you're in more of a rock and roll, not even just rock and roll, you're in a concert environment. It's not even rock, it's just concert, you know. I mean, you know, you may have a kid playing a classical thing, but it's just such a different environment. And
there's lights and smoke machines.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
But no, you know, it's also because we have a more concert approach. I think we've also created, it's a different vibe. The people are cool when kids are making music, but in between, people are moving and shifting around. It's just the people get it. It's cool.
Yeah. The band program also, I mean, yes, it's not just about bands, but my head's kind of there. The band program also expanded too when you got here, in that it wasn't just, well, there were more bands that happened, period. We had them in different age brackets, and we also had the adult band.
The adults just think that these hitting me up going, do you offer lessons for adults? And it's like, it's like, of course, like why would you not, you know? And I mean, again, I don't want to give out ages, but like we have people who are well doubt that they didn't try it sooner.
Yeah.
You know, so, but they're happy that they're doing it.
We take them through that journey, you know, with lessons and whatnot. But like he had never been on a stage before. It was one of the Fireflies concerts. And he went on stage, played some Judas Priest, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yep.
And now he's done what, 3-4 shows since?
At Rants as well.
Oh, so okay. Now it's out of the bag.
You used a ton of pronouns. Just don't use his name.
He's probably
a 15-year-old student who got up and played his first show too. And you know what? And the thing that both of them at very different ages experienced was that excitement and that fun and that, like, I was on stage and I killed it, and this audience is yelling for me, and you don't want to get and just do it.
Right. No, that's the important thing. Yeah. So now, but being the owner of this place, you got to ensure that all this stuff we've been talking about happens. So I see a good amount of what goes into your day, but like as the owner of this place, when you're running your own business,
no, but you know, the day to day, you know, there's
because this goes into being a musician too.
Business stuff, emails and bills and whatever, you know. But day to day, it really varies. You know, when you own the place, things happen you don't expect to deal with. You don't, you know, you never know. Like my favorite example is that you know, I came in here and I had a family of raccoons living in the chimney.
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, but this stuff, something like this will happen once a month to you.
Right.
When you have and I always use this phrase. You know, you show up and the plow didn't come through because they forgot your building. When you own a business, and it's not just a business, when you're a band leader,
yeah, you
know, you're driving to a gig and you get a flat tire. It's not up to your band to figure out the van. It's up to you as the band leader or the tour manager, right? And so, you know, when you're the guy that does the thing, a day to day is kind of a funny question because you never know.
Right.
You know, I've had all sorts of, you know, insane things. You know, this story, one of our first big outdoor Schmidt and had a few too many, and he dragged a full-size fiberglass bull about a block and a half through Marlborough into a park, and you know,
Yeah.
And then there's this guy, and this guy obviously was not with it, and he was, he had to be 6'2", 250. He was not a small guy, and he's trying to tell me he needs to get on stage because his kid is performing, his nephew is performing in the middle of the song. He's trying to get on stage. No, the guy was trying to run from the cops, and I had to stop him from getting on stage. So day to day, yeah,
anything can happen.
Day to day. No, but I mean,
it's also fun when insurance salesmen come in here, and I'm like, talk to Joe, and you're like, what? I don't want. Hi, yes, please go away. That's always fun.
The sign on the door says no soliciting. Please
well, people
leave.
don't know how to read, apparently.
No, they don't. But again, it's always it. And I'm not, and it's not I'm not complaining. It's the same as you're on at any level. If you're on a van tour and you roll into a venue and they're supposed to have, our backline says you're supposed to have a 412, and all they have is a combo amp that doesn't barely work, and it's one speaker, and you're like, well, what are we successful in a band and do these things? You can probably do a successful business, but
because band's a business also.
It sucks, but bands are businesses.
Yeah.
But you just how it works. Yeah. It's also the other piece I'll add, aside from kind of joking about day to day. Day to day involves, trying to have a longer term plan. You think of it as like a tour manager. We do 3 to 4 to 5 shows a year here for the kids.
Right. That's planned a year in advance.
Or whatever, depending. Some get, that there was a school charity that we did.
Right.
That was really short notice. It was less than a month, probably.
That was like 2-3 weeks, I think. Yeah.
So I mean,
but we made it happen.
But we make it happen. So I mean, day to day involves, having a broad, the big outdoor concerts that we do. You can't get food trucks and beer trucks and permits and stuff overnight. So you have to go and get a really good idea. So
people don't think about that.
Yeah.
They think about just, the sound system doesn't just magically appear.
Yeah. So it's day to day is a very loaded question.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted to unpack a bit of it on here, because like I said, it's not just necessarily because this isn't a business pod, and as musicians, we need to be businessmen, and these are a lot of the things you do here need to know to keep all this together. Keeping
your ducks in a row, making sure you don't get ripped off at a gig.
Yeah.
Trying to avoid, gigs that are going to rip you off, or scams for shipping.
Right. Yeah. And yet we still have pianos sitting all over the.
Or comes and gives it to me.
Oh my God. Can we tell that story or no?
Yeah, I guess we can do that one. So I want to say, I can't remember which maybe 13 or 14.
What, the year?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a American Idol finale, and I was working as a tech for center staging, and management and Steven Tyler about what piano they wanted him to play on this finale show, and ultimately they sent me down there in a truck to wait outside the where they were shooting it. I think it was.
This is live TV.
Live TV. They're shooting the live finale, and I'm sitting outside. And there's a lot of. You're going to pull the truck up to here. As soon as the commercial hits, the door is going to open. We're going to get these. You're going to come out. We're going to get the piano out of the truck and inside, and we have to get the door shut before this commercial break ends. And we have like 4.5 minutes. And it was like one of those.
You think that's a lot of time, but it's not.
And it was. I forget off the top of my head. Unload 2 grand pianos during a commercial break before, because they can't have the doors. Or I mean, they open.
It's like at a loading dock, like you say.
No, it's even bigger than a loading. You could drive this truck. This is a 24-foot box truck. You could drive a semi truck in through these elephant doors. I mean, you could drive 2 side by side.
Wow.
They're just these massive, and they're tall, and they just all the big studio lots, all the sound stages have these doors like that. And you can't, they're filming live TV, you're not, but it's for bigger load-ins for when they're just setting up. This was I think this was a Staples Arena, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh wow.
Or Nokia Live.
Yeah.
It was one of the two. I mean, but they're next to each other.
Yeah.
And Yeah, it's just these, you wouldn't expect it, but these are just massive doors you can drive trucks through. But it was like, and there's 10 union people. I mean, it was, we have all their trucks for center staging had lift gates.
Yeah.
We could have put the piano, we were trying to get the piano on the gate and then lower it down, the hydraulic.
Yep.
There's like 10 union guys, like they just jump up there. They just manhandle both off. The gate was not fast enough.
Wow.
No, they didn't want to deal. They're just like, so, but yeah, but that's how some of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's always some, even in the teching world and stuff, working with some of these people. I was on Dancing with the Stars because they had the live bands like Jimmy Kimmel.
Yes, the other thing you told me, the catering was just,
Yeah, Tony and CBS, they all had really great catering, and you spent a lot of time as a tech sitting around, and all the union people, if you're buddies with them, they're like, I would finish eating. I've always been skinny. I'd finish eating and I'd walk past someone like, did you get any food yet? But it was like, it wasn't like, it was like 5-star cuisine in these places. It was ridiculous.
That was awesome.
Stages that I worked at on different days. So if I didn't like the food at Ellen, I would just go to another lot and talk to one of the catering people. Like, can I get?
That's fun.
Great. It was fun.
That does sound fun. Yeah. I mean, and I guess that also ties into one of the things you kind of made me think about was how important thinking on your feet is. Like, not just as someone working in the music business, or I should say being a player or a band leader. Even when you're running this place, you got to think on your feet a lot. Yeah. Like when we're thinking about what do we want to do for like a skit they're going to do or whatever, we come up with it right there. Like just every boom, 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 boom. Mm-hmm. And I like to be a little bit more methodical with my stuff, but you're a lot more spontaneous with things. I have spontaneity too, but when it comes to like if I was to plan a skit like that, or or even when I'm writing music, I tend to be a little bit more methodical with my approach. But you're very much like, why don't we do this? All right, actually, let's do this, and we'll build this, and blah 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 blah. You know what I mean?
And I still make it happen.
That's Tomorrow Joe's problem. No,
that's exactly it. It's Tomorrow Joe's problem. Have it or not, it's just something I just do. I don't.
That's not to say he leaves stuff to the last minute. By the way, no. He does plan stuff far in advance.
As we stated before, creativity just happens.
Yes,
and I guess it's just if your brain has that I guess they say, and this is the perfect example of both ends of it. A song like November Rain was around for almost 10 years. I mean, that was out. November Rain, like almost 10 years before it came out on maybe 6 years or whatever to come out on Use Your Illusion, and yet like a song like I think like Rocket Queen, I forget, like a couple of the songs are the bigger songs on, or maybe it was Sweet Child, but a couple of the bigger songs on Appetite were written in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same. Like it's some things just, some people have that spark.
The day before and be like, hey, can we play here? Yeah, good. Yeah, no, click.
Well, we'll just come out and say why we're so different here at the school than, the chains, right? It's that I don't have a script for every group of kids that walks through the door like these other places. I don't go, cool, here's the next band. They're 7 to 8 years, or they're 9 to 10 years old. Here's the 9 to 10 script in the pop genre. Here's that. No, it's like, what do these kids bring to the table?
Yeah.
And what's, these kids are into.
They are vastly different from week to week.
Yeah.
The summer programs.
And there's a lot of places that will just be like, well, it's summer week 3. So somebody came in here asking me about the Suzuki method. And if you want a teacher to do that, we it's a whole certification too. But I said, I don't really believe in that one as much. I said that it has proven results, and I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
But what I feel like it does is it standardizes it to the point where it's not about your connection with your teacher. It's not a connection with music. It becomes like a math class that can be taught by whoever's in the room at the time. And I don't really think that that's a proper approach for music.
Yeah.
Every kid that comes through here, all of us you really need something more custom to you. I am wanting but they're so good at hearing and playing.
Right.
And then I have other kids who, like, you tell them to put their hand and foot and go, and they can't do it, and they look like they're in pain, and they're like,
right. Yeah.
Nope. And it takes them a long time to get that down, right?
Yeah.
But that same kid understands the theory within a week.
Yeah.
He's like a prodigy in theory. So, like, you can't teach both of those styles. You can't have a standardized lesson
right.
for those two styles. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
that's why I ask every student when they first walk in, I say, depending on how old they are, because this question doesn't work on a 7-year-old, but I ask, what is it you're looking to do? Like, what's your background in the instrument? What is it you're looking to do? Because if they want to be a songwriter, well, I got to help them how to learn if they're just looking to just play music for fun, just show them a few basic chords so that they can learn how to play a song a lot of songs in a general sense, like the first 4 chords or so. It's going to depend on every single person.
Yeah. It's a personal journey, I guess you can call it.
Yes. Yeah, and we all have different. Yeah, everyone's journey is going to be different. It's forming bands, and that band hopefully creates something unique. You know, yeah, like just so how vastly different, because we would sometimes have 3-4 weeks in a row of it. Mm-hmm. Like one time we had an all-girl band come in here. So the week before was like a straight up metal band. Mm-hmm. Then the week after was an all-girl band, and they wanted to play. What were they doing? They were playing Running Up That Hill. They were doing Paramore. It was just complete opposite end of the spectrum.
And I mean, just the dynamic of 4 boys versus 4 girls. It's just a whole different and just the experience. So you can't have and we don't try to book for the record. Typically we don't have girl bands, so we do mix it up but in those things, the dynamic between the 2 weeks was dramatically different. And then the following weeks, then the week after that was all really little kids, and then the week after that was a bunch of olds. But people want to get different things out of it. I knew a violin player who was really very rarely performed.
Yeah.
And that was just her thing. Didn't want anything to do with that style of doing it.
I've had students who are like really they're always coming up with different ideas and stuff on the guitar. Like you get those students where it's like, yo, hey, you should try and take some of these ideas and like form songs around them. And sometimes they do, and then they become those people that can write 10 songs a day. I hate those people. I'm kidding. People write 10 songs a day, or you tell them that idea and then they're
no, and I mean it's just, it really is, it's a balancing act all the time, because I'm here, I'm doing pre-production for an upcoming album that I'm doing with a DJ, which I'll announce a little more about down the line. And then tomorrow, since this is you figure it out, it's a balancing act. This should be done tonight. First thing tomorrow around 10 o'clock in the morning, I actually have a drummer coming in to do a session, so I'll strike my set and I'll put the recording the house so that by 3:30 school lessons can start. We'll also shoot video.
All right.
So it's a showcase kind of scenario. Okay. So is it a balancing act? Yeah. Will it get done? Yeah, it's fine. But that's in a nutshell, that's really what it is. And especially because we do so much, we've had, I have people come in here to do podcasts, not just you. No, not just you. I've had people come in and, I actually have had people wonder, because we didn't get into it here with theirs where the voice is done with the big ceilings, and I
track drums for my record up there.
You tracked up there. I love tracking up there.
Sounds great.
Just depends on the project.
Yeah.
This setup right now is more of a hip hop one, so a lot of the tones are going to be tighter anyway.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as much of a concern. But this is all, and this is pre-production.
Yeah.
But still needs to be done. But we have the great space upstairs, so it's a really fun spot that people have rented just for, you know, some type of meetings of, you know, corporate meetings. You know, it's fun. So it's just
Who's
always
holding
balancing
corporate meetings here?
A corporation, I don't know if it was a former student, but they knew of the space and they were like, what would it cost to have, you know, the space for a day for a long meeting? And it's like,
Right.
you know, it's like, but we also do, you know, we do corporate team building camps here where we, you know, celebrities to come lead the bands, who does R&D, who's like a ridiculous closet guitar player.
Yeah.
And, you know, you get a few different people, and, you know, Agnes gets a tambourine.
Right.
They learn some stuff, they do some team building, and then we go across the street to Fireflies, and they go and do their whole thing and do a performance and catered stuff. And but we also do catered. You can rent this space here to do karaoke events.
Yeah, we do have karaoke here.
We do karaoke, so, you know, we do up to 20 people, and, you know, you rent the place. We have catering and all that fun stuff. So
One of our students had his daughter's birthday here with like,
we have
like 30 people.
Yeah, we do. We've done more than that, more than just that student. Yeah, but we do kid birthday party, karaoke parties for kids. So yeah, I mean, it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
It's just, but having such a cool space, it also allows to be able to do a lot of cool, just different stuff.
Yeah, bit where the camera is, but there's lights up here. There's LEDs down there. There's a whole bunch of monitors.
Stage lighting, proper, you know, speakers. You know, when
all it's missing is pyro.
Pretty much. I mean, we've got 3,000 watts of PA system. Not that we need that much, but if you're a full size band, when you're renting hourly, you know,
there's a whole rack out of frame. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a shop, but there's guitar amps. There's, you know, there's drums. There's so.
If I move, you can see.
There's just other, but yeah. Yeah.
We even have a megaphone, which I use more than I need to, but it's fun. And that's another thing too, actually, talking about making the shows special. It really is the little things that you do. We had one of our bands play Dead and Bloated by Stone Temple Pilots. And typically, well, I mean, you want to tell it? It's a small thing, but yeah. Live, he would hold the megaphone and hold the microphone in front of it so he could get that same effect that he did. Singer of the band that. What did you do? You went out and bought a megaphone so he could do it. Yeah. And then that one didn't work, and then you bought another one.
What do I do in a day?
Exactly. And, you know, you may think, well, that's such a small thing. No, he loved it, and it made the show just that much more. We do different, or their logos, or even
stage props that they're making now. You know, they don't want to do another guitar, and it's now they're making like stage props, and they're making like stage sets, and you know, we're just letting them kind of design, you know, what they do. But that's the same, you know, same with when the kids have the bigger concerts. We try to do stage stuff, you know, and you know, it's also, you know, they
try to sell their own merch too. Yes,
from My Chem.
Yes,
and we had half the band march in with the drum beat thing. And we had a drum set up for the kid to play some stuff in front of the stage. And then the drummer went up on stage and played, you know, and I mean, it's just, I don't know many adult bands who've been able to put that much production into a song at a concert.
Yeah.
And be able to pull it off.
Yeah. Or with We Will Rock You, you had like what, 10 drummers in front?
Oh yeah, that's right. I did We Will Rock You, and it was 10 of my drum students up across the front of the stage. Playing the beat with the drummer on stage and the band leading it from the stage. Yeah.
10 years old, have like high-end wireless packs so they can run into the audience. Our students got one for Christmas. We're like, why don't we just let them all use them, and then they can run off the stage and then perform their encore in the audience.
Yeah. The drummer got kind of left alone on stage.
Yeah, you should have built. I keep telling you this. Build a Tommy Lee drum roller coaster, but this one that extends into the audience so he can do stuff, and don't have it break down like on New Year's.
So that's the problem. Where's the budget for that? Because even Tommy Lee can't afford one that works.
I still find that hilarious that it just stalled on New Year's, the last show.
It actually stalled frequently on that tour.
Yeah.
And they'd have to reboot the computers, and I don't know.
You were there. You saw it.
I saw it happen on New Year's. I always wondered whether that one was planned. I don't know. It seemed kind of funny.
Was his?
I bounced back and forth. His dialogue sound. I couldn't believe he was that calm about it and just kind of that loud. But I can also see it's your last show. It's your thing. It happened. You're just kind of like, what else? Like, 'cause
Right.
so at first in the moment, I'm like, oh, this was planned. But the more I kind of think now, and that tour, it did break down a bunch of times. Like it froze a bunch.
Motley Crue and you're going out, wouldn't you have tested that thing a bajillion times so it was absolutely bulletproof on the show?
Well, it never fell down.
Okay, but it's stalling, so it's not bulletproof.
No, I had its own team of people. I think there was 3 guys that ran that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I know that one of the things when it stopped working, they had to reboot the computers. So all I can figure is that it's on actuators, and I mean, you think of a regular roller coaster,
Yeah.
and it flows and it does whatever it does, and there's brakes, but by and large, like
This didn't do that.
this was every movement to track on either side of the stage, and wheels that have to pull this thing.
Right.
And as it's doing that, going over these, so yeah, I mean the timing of it wasn't just like it wasn't like a watch where it's a bunch of gears rotating.
Right.
I mean, this was a bunch of, so all I can figure is maybe, you know, I don't know, my speculation would be maybe it was some kind of computer malfunction from the people I talked to in that crew. I was explained to it as,
and that was not computer. To diss on your friends over there. I was just asking.
No. I didn't. I actually only knew. I knew people involved in that. I know more people involved in the current group, but I didn't know as many people in that one. But it was just but this is also a thing. Like, you know, when you think about, and I mentioned, we were talking about this before we started, and this is a good spot for it. You know, when you're at that level of band, you know, you get out there. This stuff is done just in time for the tour. You get out on tour and it's fit and hope it, you know, 75% of the time it works all the time. Your show, each set or a stadium, and then he would play on a small stage right at the end of that track.
Right.
They did their like finale there. So do you take that out?
Like in the middle of the arena, he'd go out into
all the way. It was almost the back of the arena at that point. Yeah.
Hello.
But ultimately, do you give that? You know, and that gets into this whole thing that, you know, constant level of production, this unbelievable level of perfection, and, you know, and then also, I mean, Live Nation's screwing up ticket prices, but then also, you know, can't handle these. I was watching a video of Taylor Swift's stage production, and she dives into it through her stage. Is like a trap door opens on the stage, and she dives in because it's like a pool, and then the whole stage is video screens where she's swimming. It shows her swimming.
Right.
And people expect this level of performance now.
Yeah.
And they expect that level of perfection as well. And it's kind of just getting to a weird place where, you know, if you're in a band and you're in a production like as big as that, the stadium tours and whatnot, like it's really, it's a whole nother animal now. And I think that
her and Metallica probably have the most advanced stage production right now.
They do. And they're going head to head right now. You know, they were fighting out about who had the biggest draw for the SoFi Stadium thing in California, and Metallica, because of their stage was in the round, beat out Taylor Swift for the most people there. So
yeah.
But you know, it's crazy what audiences are kind of becoming like expecting, I think, from these bands. You know, it's become a point, we've talked about this, that your favorite band there.
Yes.
No, not Yes.
Well, I do love Yes. No, The Who.
The Who. You know, The Who, Pete Townsend saying he doesn't think that they can afford to come to America again because
each show's $1 million, right?
Pretty much. I mean, by the time they pay for the tour to take off and they come here, if any kind of mess up like COVID or something knocks them off for 2 or 3 shows, they're not going to make any money because they can only play a stadium. They can only play a certain size, and there's only, you know, maybe 12 shows that they can do. So if any of those shows get screwed up, the tour could actually either cost them money or
when Entwistle passed away, they were in the middle of the tour. They couldn't just cancel insurance. And so therefore, if they had canceled that tour, they would have been so badly in debt because they still owed their crew and everything.
Yeah.
A lot of those people would have been out of work. So what do? Ding, ding, ding. Hi, Pino Palladino. Can you, with the music? Yeah.
Well, the business end of that, just of the music industry, is nobody actually gave a crap what happened to Michael Jackson. They wanted to know who was going to be responsible for paying for all his stuff. If it was a suicide, then it was Michael Jackson's estate that was responsible for all of the leftover tour issues that didn't happen. And if it was the doctor overdosing him, it was then a problem of the doctor's insurance or whatever. And it was basically, it was never about like what happened to poor Michael Jackson. Why did he die? It was all about, I don't want to be stuck with these hundreds of millions of dollars worth of debt.
Yeah.
And it's really so many times where you see that they're not protecting an artist or whatever. They're trying to figure out where's the money. So,
and that's why it's like you want to have, you want to make as many friends as possible, but make sure you don't make friends with the crooks like that.
Yeah.
All the, slimy people, so to speak. Judge a character. Any kind of person could come in wanting to work with you or something like that, and you got to be able to read them within the first 3 seconds of them talking. To know what,
so
exactly. Well, I guess, wow, we've gone an hour and 20. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's going to cost more.
Oh, it's going to cost. Well, no comments. So, anywho, guys, thanks for tuning in with all this. This has been cool. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This has been fun. All right, so next week I'll have Neil Sorensen on, and I guess before, any just words of wisdom for anyone that's looking to start their own business or whatever?
Just do what you're going to do and do it aggressively.
I like that. All right.